Welcome back, Math Marvels. In this lesson, we're going to talk more about similar figures, and in this case, we're going to look at one change we're going to make, which is a dilation. Think about your eye for a second. And did you ever look in the middle of your eye, and sometimes if you shine light in it, it gets bigger or smaller? Well, when you shine light, it gets smaller. Your eye contracts. And when you're in a place that's really dark, it gets bigger to let more light in. It expands. So your eyes dilate. And we're going to talk about dilations with figures. And I'm using my dog's holiday picture, little Naya. And when an image dilates, it either gets bigger or smaller. These are the two types of dilations. So it either expands or it contracts. And it's still the same picture. The picture doesn't change, just the size of it changes and the magnification of it changes or the scale of it changes. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So here's our first example. And here I have a triangle and I have all three sides of the triangle. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take that original triangle and I'm going to draw both the triangle and its new image. So the new image is like its transformation. It's going to be transformed. It's going to be new. And in this case, it's going to be a dilation. So it's going to magnify. It's going to get bigger or smaller by a scale factor of 2. So I want you to think, is it going to get twice as big or half the size? Is it doubling or is it halving? So think about that for a little bit, and that will tell us the type of dilation. So looking at my table here is made so you can see my thinking and so you can see the structure. And because it is a scale factor of 2, look what I am doing to the x and y coordinate. I am multiplying them by 2. So just thinking about that in your brain, if I am multiplying something by 2, is it getting bigger or smaller? It's getting bigger. So watch what happens to the points and watch how I'm going to use math to show you this. So all I'm doing in my head is I'm taking that x coordinate and I'm multiplying it by 2. And I'm taking that y coordinate and I'm multiplying it by 2. That's all I'm doing, Math Marvels. So 1 times 2 is 2 and 4 times 2 is 8. So that is my new coordinate. So I'm actually going to map those two there. My original one was 1, 4. This was D. And my new coordinate is 2, 8. So already here's D prime. So that's my first change. You can see it's in a totally new location in this quadrant. All right, let's try my second point. I'm doing the same thing. My x times 2 and my y times 2. Okay, that just gives me 0.22. So that's my E to E prime. So E was at 1, 1. And E prime is now at 2, 2. There's a new change. For the last one, I've seen some kids go and they're like, Miss, I can just do this in my head. And literally what they tell me happens in their head looks something like this. Tell me this looks familiar. And they're going, well, 3 times 2 is 6. And 1 times 2 is 2. And kids tell me like that's what they're doing in their minds. And to be fair, it makes complete sense to me what they're doing. I will say the notation is unfamiliar because we don't distribute with coordinate pairs. Like we don't see it in that way often. This is something that makes sense in your brain that helps you hold the numbers. Then definitely it's not wrong in terms of your thinking. You're still multiplying by 2. But be prepared to have to explain this thinking because some people may say it doesn't make sense, it's unfamiliar, notation may be off. So just be ready for that part because that's not the way we write geometry notations when we're doing dilations. So just be prepped and prepared. Most kids are actually doing a lot of these numbers in their heads. But let's put in these points. 3, 1. So here's F. And our new point, 6, 2. Here's F prime. Now, besides the fact that these are in different positions, for triangles, let's actually draw them out. Let's look at our original triangle. Now let's look at our new triangle. And tell me, what kind of dilation do you believe this is? Is this a contraction? Is it getting smaller or is it getting larger? Well, clearly my new triangle is much larger. On figures, this is an expansion. in terms of dilation. So my new figure, my transformed figure, is bigger. And because I've made one change, just one with a dilation, I have one dash. We're going to do lots of things where they have multiple changes, so we may have something that has two changes and you might see two dashes, but I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Hit pause so you can jot this down into your notes. This time we have a rectangle, and we're going to do something very similar, except in this case we have a different scale factor of 1/2. So Math Marbles, I want you to think for a minute. We know this has to do with multiplication. Do you think if you multiply by 1/2 that your figure will get bigger or smaller? What do you think? When we multiply by a scale factor of 2, it got twice as big. So what do you think is going to happen here? Let's find out. We're going to do the same math again. I'm just taking my -4 and I'm multiplying it by 1/2. So -4 times 1/2 is -2. And 2 times 1/2, well, that just gives me 1. So my point went from -4, 2 to -2, 1. So it just halved itself. So we're going to do the same thing. Well, I have 4 times 1/2 now, it's just positive, and 2 times 1/2. So I'm still doing the same level of multiplication, it's just they're both positive numbers. Now I have 0.21. And your mind might be saying, well, am I multiplying by 1/2 or am I just halving the numbers? So you might be doing in your head 2 -1 because you're halving the numbers. And the last one will be -2 -1. Okay, so let's put in our original points, or J, K, L, M. So -4, 2. Here's J, and 4, 2, 4. Here's K, 4, -2. Here's L, and -4, -2. Here is M. So I'm going to just connect these dots. So here's my original figure, rectangle JKLM. And now let's graph our new transformed image. So -2, 1. So here's J prime. 2, 1. K prime. 2, -1. L prime. And -2, -1. M prime. And let's connect these. All right, and there's our new figure. And so looking at that, would you say it's expanded or contracted? Clearly it's smaller. Clearly when we multiply by a fraction, it gets smaller. So this is a contraction. So hit pause so you can jot this one down in your notes. And this is what you're going to do today, Math Marvels. You're going to get a set of vertices for a figure. You're going to then transform to get new vertices using the scale factor. And when we use scale factor, we are multiplying by that factor. So you're multiplying both the x and y coordinate. Use as much space for your thinking as possible so we can see your multiplication until you're confident in your multiplication. And then you're just going to plot both and tell me, is it getting bigger or smaller? So that's it for today's lesson, Math Marvels. Those are dilations. I hope this was helpful for you, and I will see you in the next lesson. Take care.